Endless. Okay, settle in. Grab a blanket, maybe? No? Fine by me. Just don't expect me to hold your hand if things get sticky. Or twisty. Or just plain wrong. This is my story. Or rather, my night, which seems to be on repeat. My name? Oh, it hardly matters. Let's go with Alex. Because it's comfortably ambiguous, like my current state of existence. I woke up, which usually implies an end to something else, like sleep or unconsciousness. But waking up here? It feels more like a beginning, a horrifying, inescapable beginning, played on a loop. The first time I woke up in this room. It's unassuming. A bedroom, slightly dusty, smelling vaguely of old paper and something metallic, like pennies left on damp wood. The walls are a color I can only describe as anxious beige. There's a window, but the curtains, thick and velvet-like, are drawn tight. A bedside table holds a glass of murky water and a book whose title I can never quite focus on. My initial reaction wasn't panic. It was observation. Fascinating, isn't it, how the mind processes the utterly inexplicable? Most people scream, I assume. Or hyperventilate. I, on the other hand, noticed the dust motes dancing in the single shaft of light slicing under the curtain and thought, particulate suspension in a stagnant atmosphere. Textbook. See? Eccentric. You were warned. I got up. The floorboards felt sticky under my bare feet. Not wet sticky, but sugary sticky, like spilled syrup that's dried but never truly hardened. It made a soft schlup sound with every step. I remember thinking, odd. Biophysical adhesion properties seem inconsistent with typical household residues. I tried the door. It opened. Relief, right? Freedom beckoned. Except, the hallway was wrong. Too long. The wallpaper, a sickly floral pattern, seemed to ripple slightly, like fabric underwater. And the air, it was colder here, with a whisper that wasn't quite wind, more like distant, sibilant voices arguing just out of earshot. Naturally, I proceeded. One mustn't one? Curiosity is simply a data acquisition drive, and mine was pinging like a Geiger counter in a lead factory. The hallway twisted, defied architectural logic. Doors lined it, but they were all identical, plain white, with no handles. Just smooth, unnerving surfaces. I touched one. It was cold, leaching the warmth from my fingertip. I kept walking. The whispering grew louder, shifting from indistinct argument to urgent, overlapping pleas. It felt like 100 people were trapped just behind the wallpaper, begging to be let out, or perhaps warning me away. My heart rate, which had been commendably steady, finally started to pick up. Okay, maybe observation wasn't all I was capable of. Fear was starting to trickle in, a cold, unpleasant syrupiness spreading through my chest. The hallway ended abruptly at another door. This one was different. Heavy, dark wood, with a single, rusty doorknob. It felt significant. Like a choice. Left, right, or through. I chose through. It led outside. But outside was a concept stripped of all comfort. The sky was a bruised purple, not night, not dawn, just wrong twilight. The ground was not earth or pavement, but a spongy, gray mass that absorbed the sound of my steps. Twisted, skeletal trees clawed at the sky, their branches adorned not with leaves, but with what looked suspiciously like matted hair. And the silence. After the whispering hallway, this silence was deafening. A vast, empty void that pressed in on me, making my ears ring. I was utterly alone. I walked. Where else was there to go? I walked for what felt like hours, the spongy ground yielding slightly under my feet, the twisted trees watching with their hair-like branches. I tried calling out. My voice was swallowed immediately, a pathetic croak lost in the oppressive quiet. Then I saw it. In the distance. A building. It looked familiar. Like the house I'd just left. A two-story structure with peculiar, anxious beige walls. My stomach clenched. I ran towards it. Maybe I'd made a mistake, taken a wrong turn in the nightmare woods. Maybe I could get back inside, find a different door, a way out. Hope, a genuinely foreign sensation in this place, spurred me on. I reached the house. The front door was slightly ajar. Relief washed over me, quickly followed by a wave of nausea. This wasn't just like the house. It was the house. The same chipped paint on the porch railing, the same faint, coppery smell in the air. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The hallway. The long, rippling hallway with the sickly floral wallpaper. The whispering started again, louder this time, more frantic. And at the end of the hallway, the dark, heavy wooden door with the rusty doorknob. My breath hitched. This wasn't right. I'd left through that door. It had led outside. It shouldn't lead back in. Unless outside was inside. Unless there was no out. I ran back to the front door. It was still open. I could see the spongy gray ground, the skeletal trees, the bruised purple sky. I ran back through it. And stood again in the rippling hallway. My carefully constructed intellectual facade didn't just crack this time. It shattered. I stumbled back, hitting the wall, the floral pattern seeming to writhe and giggle around me. The whispering voices escalated into a cacophony of screams, echoing the scream that was trying to tear its way out of my own throat. I was trapped. I had walked in a circle, but the circle was folded, impossible. The outside led back inside, and presumably, going through the end door again would lead back outside. An endless loop. A Mobius strip of sheer, unadulterated horror. This was the first loop. It wasn't the last. Since then, I've woken up in that quiet, beige room countless times. Each time, I try something different. I try not opening the dark door. I try walking the other way down the hallway. It just leads to a blank wall that wasn't there before. I try staying in the initial room. The dust motes eventually coalesce into shapes that aren't dust motes, and the smell gets much, much worse. Sometimes, when I go outside, the spongy ground is replaced by something else. Scuttling insects under a blood-red sky. Or reflective, black glass stretching to an unseen horizon, with distorted versions of myself walking just out of sync beside me. Once, the trees weren't trees, but immense, silent figures, their faces turned away, sobbing. No matter what I do, no matter which path I take, which door I open, I always end up back in the rippling hallway, back in the beige room, back facing that dark, heavy door. The whispering outside the wallpaper has changed, too. It's less like please now, more like chanting. Repetitive, monotonous phrases I almost understand before they dissolve into static. Sometimes, I hear my own name woven into the chorus, stretched and distorted like taffy. I'm losing track of the loops. Are there 15? 50? 100? The memory of the real world is fading, replaced by the sticky floor, the rippling walls, the spongy ground, the bruised sky, the endless, infuriating, soul-crushing repetition. I tried to hold on to my eccentricity, my observational detachment. I might think, seeing the same unsettling shadow crawl across the ceiling for the 10th time. Note the consistent vector and velocity of the spectral manifestation. Suggests a programmed sequence rather than true sentience. But the thought is hollow. The terror is a physical weight now, settling in my bones. I know what's coming. I know I'll leave this room, navigate the impossible hallway, step back into the twisted world outside, try desperately to find an exit that doesn't loop, fail, and end up back here. I can feel the edges of my sanity fraying. The loops are tight now, quicker. Sometimes I don't even get outside. The hallway just warps, twisting back on itself until I'm standing before the dark door again, having walked mere feet. I'm in the room now. I just woke up. The air smells like old paper, pennies, and growing despair. The dust motes dance in the light. The floor is sticky. The curtains are drawn on the window. The book title is still unreadable. The bedside glass is empty now. It used to have cloudy water. Now it's just empty. A small change. A new detail in the endlessly repeating pattern. It makes me wonder what other small changes are accumulating, loop after loop, subtly altering the nightmare until what? Until it finally breaks? Or until I do? I hear the whispering starting in the hallway outside. It's not chanting today. It sounds like laughter. Giggling, overlapping, delighted laughter. My fingers are trembling. But I have to get up. I have to try the door. Because standing here, waiting for whatever small, new horror this loop holds, is simply unacceptable. Even in an endless nightmare, the instinct to seek an exit persists. A cruel, persistent flicker of hope in the face of infinite repetition. Or perhaps, just another facet of the nightmare itself. I stand. Schlup. The floor is sticky. The door calls to me. Here we go again.